Hello and welcome to Analysing Avatar. Today we are taking a look at... You know what, I've just realised, Chris, I don't have the page open, so I can't tell you what number episode this is. I can barely remember what it's called. I've screwed up. I have my notes in front of me, but not, like, just the information about the episode. Do you remember what it's called? I don't. That's bad. What a horrible start.
It's 4.9, I think. Let me just see if I can quickly...
Look for episode...
No.
Episode. I had it open earlier, and I can't even find it in my history now. 1 second. Here it is. No, it's not. It can't be 9, because that's... oh, no, that is it. Beyond the Wilds. Got it. There you go. Right, let's pretend that didn't happen. So, yeah, this is episode 9 of Book 4. It's Beyond the Wilds, and I definitely knew that before we hit recording. For those of you unaware, this is the episode in which a bunch of tourists going to the spirit wilds get captured by angry spirits, or spirit vines, because of Kuvira's shenanigans. Korra has to get over her shit to be able to go into the spirit world and save them. Plus, a little side. Go on, sorry.
It's also the episode where Korra seems to be, struggling to deal with her trauma, and then seemingly resolves it by the end of the episode, because makes it quite unique for this series. Haven't had an episode like that before. That's good.
No, first time. I'm like I'm the James Franco meme. First time. We're all just in the gallows. Yeah, we'll talk about that. The ongoing journey of Korra, and I think what's frustrating about this one is I genuinely believe this is like the right time to have done it. You know, as we head towards the ending. I have some concerns about the execution, but we'll come to that. The other little side plot for anyone who doesn't remember is there's some political stuff this week where, you know, the Fire Lord and Tenzin representing the Air Nation both decide that, like, they're not going to take immediate action because Kuvira isn't, like, she's not being, like, violent or whatever. At present, she's, you know, basically they went, oh, that's internal stuff. Like that's the Earth Kingdom figuring itself out. We're not going to get involved in an internal matter. They're not, invading other countries yet. They say that now. What's going to happen in a couple of weeks' time when she comes after Republic City? That's all I'm saying. Anyway, let's take a look at this episode. Well, first of all, let's just do overall thoughts, because I think we sometimes skim over that because we have, like, really specific things we want to, like, break down and we get ahead of ourselves. But let's just do overall, because I think overall it's a pretty good episode. I don't think there's anything, strictly speaking, wrong with it. In fact, I think there's some really clever choices made, which I'll highlight in a minute. But it suffers for, I think, one, maybe two particular issues. But how are you feeling about this one, Chris? I assume just watched it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Look, it's not a clip show, so this episode's always going to feel like, okay, cool, we're back. That's good. I thought it was good that we had so many plots in an episode where we don't necessarily have a shitload of action. That felt like a good way of, like, juggling and handling budgets. I thought the Korra plot did feel a little like repetitive, and I say that in jest because I'm well aware that I'm pretty sure the first time it seemed like it was resolved, Dan and I were like, well, that was a bit easy. So it's partly in jest, or at least acknowledging that.
But can I very quickly with that say, though, there's a difference between it feeling easy and it just being easy but taking longer. Like, I think it's really important that we note here that it still seems pretty easy. It just happened in a later episode. Like, we'll talk about it, but yeah, odd. But go on.
Yeah, but I basically it's one of those episodes where it's like, you know what, I enjoyed every single plot here. There wasn't a plot that I wasn't engaged with. There wasn't a plot that I wasn't interested in. All the team are back, sort of closer together and working together. We're clearly building momentum to the end. Yeah, I enjoyed myself. Your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I think most of this episode really does work. It's like a really clever story of the week that's both small enough to allow you to have time for character growth, but involved enough to feel like a really solid story of the week. Like, if you were like, oh, next week, a bunch of people get trapped in the spirit wilds, and Korra sort of, like, to be able to solve them needs to go to the spirit world, but she's still blocked, and it's going to be about her. Okay, I'm like, perfect. That's a great setup for an episode of this show. Lovely idea. Keeps the momentum going, leads us to character work, on board with all of that. I think the problem comes down to the shallowness of the character work they then do. But if we're putting that aside to talk about later, the actual content of this episode in terms of the story choices, the sort of flow of the episode, as it were, the pacing of this particular episode, all really good. I like the slight political. It's a well positioned episode as well to give us some political stuff. Like, I did find it really interesting that the Fire Nation, the Fire Lord, their new Fire Lord, presumably the granddaughter of Zuko, was just like, we're not getting involved in this mess. This is Earth Kingdom business. Because part of you goes, well, is this like a villainous character? It's like, well, no. Look at how any politics works in our world. Like, how much goes wrong in so many horrendous, so many horrendous incidents happening across the world in different countries that larger countries, or maybe more militarized countries, hold their hands up and go, yeah, we ain't touching that. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is not an uncommon scenario for countries to be wary of meddling in the internal disputes of others. And I'm not saying that's right. You know, there's a time to move, and the fascistic nature of like what Kuvira is doing should be the red flag, truthfully. And the more information that comes in, I see Tenzin starting to understand, truthfully, because he also opposed taking immediate, at least militaristic action. And I even though that's not like the focus of this episode, I loved that this episode was like placed in a way where we could get that as well, because it didn't feel like we were cutting to that out of nowhere. It's part of the journey Korra is on right now, and Bolin and Varric showing up at this moment, also a setting up of Varric and Asami working together to resolve the super weapon problem. I mean, God, even the existence of a super weapon should have everybody panicking, but they're still dragging their heels a little bit, dragging their feet a little bit, digging their heels in. I mixed up the two metaphors. Them dragging their heels instead of one or the other.
It's all right. Yesterday, I heard someone go to say that what they meant to say was the ball's in James's court, but what they said was, well, James has got his big court of balls, which I'm still laughing about, if I'm honest.
That's amazing. What does that even look like? Because it's big went before court, so that implies the court is the thing that's big, and there are just many balls of normal size in it. So it's like what? It's like an Olympic-sized court, but it's just full of lots of small balls, like golf balls.
That's what I'm imagining.
Yeah. I love it. I'm on board with this plan. So yeah, I think like as an episode, I really enjoyed it. I think it's funny. I think it's like where it needs to be funny. It's doing all the right stuff to push like the plots we need into the right place. In my opinion, there are two issues. One is the larger one we'll talk about after this. The second one is just a feeling I have that the series is maybe, and this is more of a criticism of its positioning in the series rather than a criticism of this isolated episode, but I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this, Chris. I feel like the show has lost a bit of momentum, a little bit of steam. We built up to Zhaofu and Korra's face-off with Kuvira. That was a bit of a wet fart in the end, budgetary maybe, but it didn't play out in a way that I think either of us felt was too satisfying. And since then, we've had an episode where they run around Republic City trying to save Prince Wu, a flashback episode, an episode where they run around Republic City trying to save the tourists that got caught in the spirit vines. Now, I understand that this one, specifically, would normally be fine, because obviously we're pushing the Korra getting over her stuff plot, which leads into whether she can assist with the wider plot, right? So this is part of the matter of urgency. But when you string all three together, it does just feel like the show has lost some steam, some sense of momentum, some sense of urgency, because they built it up so well, like the sort of immediacy of the concern about Kuvira, that I don't know. I'm just feeling a little bit like the show. Yeah, I just feel like it's sort of like slowed down a bit in a way that isn't maybe not benefited as a unit, that is, as a season. I'm talking about this individual episode isn't necessarily responsible for that, other than being guilty by association of being a slightly less forward thrusted episode straight after two quite not forward-thrusting episodes. Maybe if this episode had roughly been directly following the incident with Kuvira, you would have been like, okay, well, this is the plot. Korra lost, now she's trying to get her shit together. You know, and I think that would have felt better. But when you add this to those two, it does start to, I don't know, rock the boat a little bit in that sense. I don't know. Did you feel the same thing, or am I just reaching?
No, I think that's a reasonable comment for sure. I think especially if you watched them in a more traditional one after the other format, and we've watched them fairly close together. I think it almost feels like I think the problem is they did such a good job building up to the battle for what was it?
Zaofu.
Zaofu. Like and I think the reality is, as we said, the battle of Zaofu sort of wasn't this big epic wild battle. So you feel like you've had the momentum and you've had the build up and you've had the oh yeah, here it goes. Oh, they're just having a chat and now we're getting a flashback episode. Okay, cool. Like I think that's the issue. It almost feels like the show, it almost feels like they were like, okay, here you go, have a couple more episodes. They were like, oh shit, okay, we'll stretch it out a little bit. Yeah, like you say, there's nothing inherently wrong with this episode. I really enjoyed it, but if you think about it as momentum and sort of building off of that great arc as well, then yeah, I think there's definitely validity in what you're saying.
Yeah, so some sort of like season-based pacing issue. It's just sort of like it's not any individual episode's fault, but when you string them together, there is an ebb and flow that doesn't quite work. And I would say as well, going back to the Zaofu episode, it wasn't just that there wasn't a big battle. Like I think you can get away with not doing a big battle there if you want. But I don't even think it was like a satisfying payoff to the promise of Kuvira invades Zaofu, because she stood outside of it for 2 days and then just walked in once Korra got beat. And I just feel like that's not satisfying dramatically. She just took it and kidnapped people, and it just wasn't like, do you know what I mean? There's no friction. There was no and I'm not even talking about necessarily fighting, but there was literally she just sort of did it. Like it's super easy, barely an inconvenience. It's one of those moments. Like she just walked in and took it. And I know that we wanted her to win ultimately and be an imposing villain. We talked a lot about how it's really it's kind of anime logic to sort of have a villain go over first, so that when It's like Thanos beating up Hulk, beginning of Infinity War, right? You go like, oh, okay, this guy's strong. Like, you know what I mean? You like take him seriously immediately because he just beat one of your heroes. We needed Kuvira to sort of come out of that situation on top, but when it's that easy, it looks like it's more to do with the incompetence of the heroes than it is that the villain is really competent and scary. I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching. And also, we already dissected that episode, I suppose. But like, yeah, it's interesting looking at it now, as it just wasn't a particularly satisfying payoff to what they'd done. And like, I'm okay with the bad guy winning. In fact, that's what should have happened there. But like, I'm not sure about how it was executed. It didn't quite feel like the Empire Strikes Back Infinity War moment. It probably should have. But I think, yeah. So I'm curious though to your thoughts on the Korra stuff, right, for this episode, because I have on multiple occasions across our podcasts taken exception to when I have deemed, by my own taste, character work to be shallow or meaningless. And something they're just saying something to have said something, right? And I was really pleased at the first few episodes of this season for their work with Korra's character and building on the themes from the previous season, her having to accept that she's not just the Avatar, but she's also a human being, and that her identity shouldn't be completely wrapped up in her identity as the Avatar, because that's not the be-all and end-all. And learning that she, to be selfless and to sacrifice herself for a greater good, like the Air Nation, was a really big step for her. And then she starts this season really struggling with those choices and the fact that even happened, and that the Avatar could be less important than something else, when she'd grown up her whole life basically being told she was the most important thing. And that's a really interesting internal conflict to give the character. And then she couldn't bend properly, and she couldn't access the spirit world or talk to Rava, and I was like, cool, we're going to have her get over that stuff. This episode has her go to Zahir, returning villain from last year, say, "Help me." He meditates with her. Then she's just in the spirit world, and then afterwards, when Mako says, you know, what happened, she's like, "I got over it." Basically, I'm not getting the exact quote in front of me, but she's like, "I put it behind me," and I'm like, "Oh, you're just over it now, are you?" Cool. Like.
Well, I think she does say something like, "I'm not sure I'm better, but I'm over it." Or so there is an acknowledgement that like the journey's not completely done. I think in the dialogue,
right? Yeah, maybe. But I mean, I thought that was more in a like we're all still growing as people sense. You know, like I you know, like I didn't take it specifically as in relation to her character arc, but maybe you're right. Maybe that is what it meant. Let me see if I can find the line actually. Okay, Mako, how are you doing? Korra, I feel whole again. I feel good. Do you think you're finally able to forget about what Zahir did to you? No, but I'm able to accept what happened, and that's going to make me stronger. That's the exchange. So she's accepted that Zahir beat her, and that's going to make her stronger. But I don't... What? Okay. I'm so frustrated by this. I, initially, in this episode, liked that she was going to go see Zahir, because I thought, like, that's like a desperate move of a person who doesn't know what else to look for as the source of the problem. They should be looking internally, but they're looking externally. I've got to deal with my feelings about Zahir. I'm going to go confront Zahir, when actually she needs to be sorting stuff out inside of herself. And I liked the idea that she would go to Zahir, and Zahir would be like, "No, it's not about me." Look inside and have him pass on that teaching almost. I love that idea. But then she then doesn't do that. She just sort of meditates with him and gets through it. And I found that frustrating, because what has Korra actually... It's the same problem we had with this when they were just like magically pulling the metal out of her body earlier in the season. I was like, yeah, but what has she learned? Like, how has she grown? Like, they keep telling us she's getting better, and it keeps being false starts as well. So maybe this one's another false start. Maybe she's going to be like, "I'm better," and then she's still going to get her ass whooped by Kuvira until something else happens. So maybe there's more to this plot. Maybe this has just been a whole journey of failed starts until she finally figures out that she needs to look internally. Maybe that is the wider arc, and when we see the whole picture, I'll feel a lot better about it. But just for the context of this episode, if I'm to believe that she's a lot better now, and this has made her stronger and whatever, what? Like, it was so shallow. Like, what did she do? This is just spiriting harder again, right? She meditated and then she could do it. Like, did I miss something? What changed? I was a little confused and a little disappointed at that. How did you feel about it? Am I getting on my soapbox again? Because I feel like I'm a broken record. This is like the third time this series I've made this complaint. So I don't know. Am I pushing it too far? Is it fine?
No, because it's the third time that they've done it. So, like, I think the complaint is valid. I struggled with, to be honest with you, the Zahir of it all. I didn't really like, he doesn't like this villain's motive. Like what? Like, well, we've got our values are aligned, so I'm gonna help you here. Like, what? What are you talking about? Like, what's going on here, Zahir?
I mean, he didn't want the world to have, like, order. He wanted chaos, didn't he? He wanted everyone to have freedom, and I guess under a fascistic government, it does align. He just doesn't explain it very well. If you go back to what his like whole thing was about removing leaders and rulers and letting chaos reign, Kuvira uniting the entire Earth Kingdom, undoing the work in his book that he did, killing the Earth Queen. I guess that it does track, to be fair. I just think he doesn't necessarily explain it well.
Phrase it like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the episode doesn't sort of reiterate it, which I think for a kids show maybe you should, because, you know, his motives were explained last season. I don't think a stray line where he says what I may have, something, you know, paraphrasing what I just said probably would have gone a long way to making that feel better.
I also felt there's probably a more knowledgeable explanation for this that I'm missing, but my memory is we did quite a lot to like make it clear, you know, no powers in the spirit world, and that's waved away. And in my memory in Avatar as well, And that's sort of waved away with Rava being like, no, here's where you're most powerful. Is it? Because you didn't mention that before. And that might have been useful, mightn't it? Like, it just felt a bit hand wavy. The execution of it all felt a bit, man, don't worry about it.
Yeah, and I feel like that could have actually been fixed, not by changing the choice, but by phrasing it differently or adding a little more context. I don't think it's a terrible idea to go, well, actually, the Avatar has access to powers they maybe aren't aware of. There's more you can do here than you maybe realize, Like, phrase it. There's a certain way you could have phrased it that would have made it feel less hand-wavy, I think. But it is just like, oh, no, don't worry about that. We can do that now. You have powers here. Yeah, pretty strange. But also, I think I'm always confused, because I always get it wrong way around as well. You don't have powers if you meditate into the spirit world, but you do if you go into it physically using the southern portal. That's my memory.
Right.
So, but here she's meditating into it, so she shouldn't be able to use her powers, theoretically. No bending for Korra, says the rules. But I mean, again, the Avatars of Magic spiritual. I was more annoyed that they waved away how she was in communication with Rava again. Like, what changed? What changed for Korra? What emotional but what baggage did she actually put behind her, and how did she do it? What was the logic? I found it really wishy-washy and just not it's super shallow. And there was plenty of room in this episode to have done it justice. It's not like the episode was too overstuffed to fit in deeper explanations. This episode is mostly got plenty of space for conversations about this sort of thing. I mean, the episode is mostly conversations. I don't know. I found that very frustrating. Maybe I'm going out my mind here. Maybe all the comments will people will be telling me I'm wrong. But maybe there's some.
No, I think it's fair. It's all very hand wavy. Even like the way she gets in, it's like you just need to concentrate more. Okay.
Exactly. She gets in. She can talk to Rava now. What changed? Wouldn't it have been nicer if she'd have had a big epiphany or a realization or just something that would have helped?
Yeah, absolutely. Some big old learnings. Why not?
Yeah, I think I wrote down what. Oh yeah, I wrote down like in my notes like what I would have preferred her to do. I wrote down in my notes, and I was half asleep when I wrote these. This is like after I watched it last night, and like as I was like getting into bed, like drifting off. But I wrote she should have spoken to Rava at the beginning rather than Zahir. So instead of going to see Zahir, she should have basically like tried to communicate with Rava for the answers. And realized that being the Avatar is about being both a guardian of balance and a human being who has flaws and can make mistakes. That she was granted these powers and almost took them and the responsibility granted her entire life, and it took facing Zahir and being willing to give up her life that conflicted so heavily with her belief in her importance. That was what broke her, basically. That's what was blocking her. The realization she wasn't the ultimate and most important thing. But now, accepting she's both. She's a human being that can make mistakes and a supernatural being of cosmic importance will allow her to sort of find balance in herself and then unlock her powers. I mean, the season's called Balance, right? Or was that last year? No, last year was...
No, that's this year.
Yeah, Balance, yeah. So, like, the idea that she finds that balance in herself and accepts that she's both of those things, and then moves on. Even that would have been better than just this, where she's just, whereas here's just like, oh no, try meditating here with me, and that'll work. Apparently, I don't know. Like, what does Zahir do? I don't understand.
Where does Zahir go? Like, so then just that's it. Like, we don't see her.
We skip over the awkward bit where she wakes up still in front of Zahir and is like, all right, thanks, bye, I guess. Just leaves the prison.
Just some clarification, like just him being like, I want chaos, like stop him or something like that. But just mad.
Yeah, I will say this makes more sense of the trivia from last week. We talked last week about the trivia about the voice actor for Zahir being a little bit confused as to his motivation when he's making fun of Unalaq. But now remembering, because I didn't remember that Zahir came back this season at all. I thought, he's going to rot in prison forever. We'd never see him again. So if they've brought the actor back in to do these quite serious scenes, and then during the same recording session, like, also you're doing a prank phone call. I can see why the actor was like, sorry, what now? Because I didn't make fun of him, but I kind of said, like, come on, dude, it's not that hard to get your head around. It's like a parody scene. Like, it's a jokey, imaginary scene. But now I'm realizing that he probably will have recorded both sets of lines in one session. And I'm a bit like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I would have struggled if I read the script for this scene and then had the script for the other and was like,
yeah,
these are the same show. You know what I mean?
That's fair. Do you think Bolin and
Varric,
as I've been calling him, do you think old Venipoos and Bolin, do you think their return was slightly underplayed? I thought their initial one was, but then Marco, Bolin and Korra hugging outside kind of made up for it.
I agree. I actually wrote that in my notes. I wrote that the reunion was a bit flat, and then I wrote, okay, that was like an important scene where they were all having, important conversations about the future of the planet and the politics of the planet, and they were smart enough or mature enough to hold their personal hellos and goodbyes until that meeting was sort of over, and I thought that did make sense in the end. I was with you at first. It was like very, there was no fanfare at all for Bolin showing up. Korra looked absolutely delighted. Actually, credit to the artists. Korra's expression when she sees Bolin is like the warmest thing that they've ever drawn on Korra's face, and that isn't a criticism. Korra is a very burdened character. She's not often allowed to be, and that's part of the story. I think the world has put a lot of pressure on her. It's always the story of these sort of chosen one narratives, and if they're shown to be, not taking themselves very seriously, then it looks like they're not taking their role very seriously. So it's a whole thing. But I think whoever drew Korra's expression when Bolin came in, I cannot tell them how much they nailed it. Like, in words, like it was so perfect. She looked absolutely delighted that he was present, and that was really nice because it did communicate a lot in a very short space of time. And then obviously we had the actual meeting outside, which I thought was very sweet.
Yeah, and like I know you touched upon it earlier, but I really enjoyed the politics scene. Like, I enjoyed watching them.
Yeah.
Debate that. It felt very real. I thought the Fire Lord, the Fire Nation angle, like you say, sorry, I was doing so well this episode. We're like 35 minutes in and I managed.
If anyone's keeping a Chris yawn count, I think we're on. I think we're on 9 or 10 for this series. So
sorry. I'm trying really hard, but like obviously got up at like 5:30 to watch this.
Yeah. For those wondering why this wasn't a problem last season, when we recorded the last season of these, it was like November, December time, if memory serves, and there was a bigger time difference between the UK and Australia, which meant that Chris and I could do a mixture of evening recordings and morning recordings for him. Or for both of us, but whereas now in sort of the middle of the year, we're recording these sort of, July, August time. There's only like a 9-hour difference. So basically the window for Chris to be able to record one of these with me where it's the evening for him is like an hour. It's like an hour and a half. Like, it's nothing, which we could theoretically do, but it would be tricky. I'm happy to do them if you need to at some point, Chris. It'd be early morning for me, evening for you, then we'll work that out. But I do feel bad that we've basically had to record early for you every podcast this season.
No, it's fine. I just apologise to the listeners for the yawns. I can't help them. And it always seems to be like I'm never yawning when you're talking, which is weird because I'm so often bored. Like when you're talking, but me
and you both, mate. But me and you both.
But it feels like the yawns come on at like the beginning of me like trying to talk for a bit and analyse something. Anyway,
I've got a really interesting point to make. I just think I've got to
That's
it's
my
like
brain
your brain
going,
sabotaging you. Yeah.
It's my brain going, you don't have an interesting point to make. But I thought the Fire Nation element of it was really, like you said earlier, really true to life, but also just really interesting. Just, really, I just thought that scene. I really enjoyed that scene.
Mm-hmm. But frustrating to watch too, because you're kind of like, they need help. Like like she hasn't made an aggressive move towards another nation yet, but like as a person who, you know, watches TV and understands storytelling, like last year we made a real point of Republic City being a Fire Nation colony that was land that was originally Earth Kingdom. I really see Kuvira coming for Republic City. I think that is a very, and I'm not even going off memory here. I'm just, I might be subconsciously, but like I'm not directly going from memory. I'm just like, that really is like alarm bells going off. Like they put a real emphasis at the start of this season on Kuvira being like, I'm not done until the Earth Kingdom is united 100% full everything. And I kept thinking, what about Republic City? So I really feel like that, you know, hearing that the Fire Nation aren't going to get involved now, I'm like, you're going to have to at some point, I feel. Maybe we'll get General Iroh again. So yeah, definitely upcoming, like in sort of playing off of that storyline, that choice. It was frustrating to watch because it was sort of like, you're watching someone essentially make a mistake because you know where it's going, but you understand why they're making it because I know where it's going because it's a story, and it wouldn't be very interesting if. And then everything was fine was the next sentence. So I only know they're making a mistake because I have the knowledge as a viewer, but it is a frustrating thing to watch them do because they you know they're making the choice they think is best for their nation, you know, for their people, not to waste resources on an international war that's nothing to do with them. So I get it. I you know, especially when it, you know, I reports the details of, you know, the internment camps. You know, the way people who aren't from the Earth Kingdom are being treated haven't necessarily reached them yet. They might now, because obviously Bolin and Varric have some stories to tell, I'm sure. But based on the information she has at the time, even after they burst in, they don't explain everything. So yeah, it makes perfect sense. So yeah.
I really enjoyed that because obviously, you know, it was coherent. I knew exactly why you were saying what you were saying, but there were just moments there that felt like you were just discovering what TV was. You were like, I know because I'm seeing it, but the characters aren't seeing it because like we you know, they don't. We have information because we're watching it that they don't have because we're watching it. Like, it's just
yeah.
like it's
well,
done.
we know. I think it was a badly way of phrasing. I know. It's a story, and therefore there has to be conflict. It's not even that I know because I'm watching the show. It's I know because there wouldn't be a story if. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like people used to make fun of horror movies. They'd be like, "Why do they stay in the house?" It's like because if they didn't, it wouldn't be anything. It would just be a movie where for the first 10 minutes the house is a little creepy, and then when they hit "get out," they leave, and the rest of the movie is just them finding a new house, moving into it, and peacefully living their lives, which is not anything. So yeah. Anyway. Well, I've got to ask you your thoughts on the storyline that we haven't touched upon at all yet, actually, which is Bolin and Opal. For those who don't remember, very quickly, just as a recap, because I didn't mention it in the recap, Bolin attempts multiple times across this episode to convince Opal to forgive him, and then ultimately turns out Opal and Lin Beifong are planning to go on a solo mission to rescue her family. In the Earth Kingdom, and they've asked Bolin to join them. If they're not getting the support of the military, they're going to go in on their own. What did you think of that plot in general, Chris? Because, you know, you're a resident love story guy.
Yeah, it's a weird one because I think the problem is now, like, I'm like, yeah, anytime love stories happening now on this show, I'm like, come on, give me Korra and Asami. Like, you know, you've hinted. Let's do that one, baby. Like, that's the one I want to see. That all sounded creepier than I intended it. But like, it wasn't mean it like that. I just meant, like, you know, as a story. You see, television, the way television works is I'm watching something, but the characters don't know. So, like, we've seen as a viewer, I've seen the hints, and I want to see the characters realize that. So, but I thought it was,
Wait, which one of us is it early in the morning for right now? Because it's starting to feel like it's me.
I enjoyed that plot, and I enjoyed it's a little bit, I had a bit of a Dan hat on for it, and it's like, well, this is clearly building to Bolin going with them. Like, come on, let's get there, people. Like, so it's a little bit maybe predictable, and a little bit like, I hope they're, together now, and, I think they need to do a little bit more with them to make me feel like it's a grand love story. Which they're sort of trying to play it as a little bit. Well, maybe not. I think they've not spent too much time on it. I don't think they've spent an egregious amount of time on it. So yeah, you know what? I've talked myself around. I liked it. I'm a what is it again? Bolin and Opal.
Yeah.
Bopal. I'm a big fan of Bopal.
I'm conflicted because I thought most of the episode handled it really well. I liked his attempt to be romantic and her being like, "Yeah, that's all well and good. My family is still kidnapped. Like, it's gonna be a journey for me to forgive you here because, like, yeah." Although it's worth noting, obviously, there's two elements of this that bother me. Two small ones. One small, one big one. The smaller one is Opal should understand that he didn't know they were going to kidnap her family. Like, he worked for her, but, like, he didn't know that was what they were doing, right? I don't know if you can hold him responsible. Like if it turned out, I don't know, that Nadia was committing murders, I'm not sure I'm going to jail for it. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, if I didn't know and I'm not involved and I've not taken part in the activity, I don't know why, I wouldn't be in the doghouse for it. I'd be annoyed at myself for not noticing, because I feel like you notice that sort of thing. But, like, it seems weird she's holding that against Bolin, is my point. The actions of Kuvira.
What about if you helped her bury the bodies?
Yeah, then I'm definitely involved. Yeah, absolutely. Throw the book at me. Although I don't know why we're burying bodies around here. We got nowhere. We don't got no garden, nothing. We're in a big apartment block. It's like 14 stories. I don't know where I'm putting a body. I think shoving it in bits down the sink. I don't know. There's a garbage chute.
I think anyone that follows your Instagram knows how you're burying the body. You're chopping them up into tiny little pieces and you're feeding them to the birds.
Oh my God, that's a great idea. That is how you do it. And you know what? We don't have many birds that come here that eat carrion, but we do have pied currawongs and ravens, and they do. So, you're right. That's exactly what would happen. Perfect solution. Good work, Chris.
I believe, and also not just, I believe that's your solution for most things. Like, the housework needs doing. So, all right, I put some seed out. I call in the birds. We'll attach a dishcloth to them. Like,
yeah, it's like a Disney princess movie. They all come in and start like putting stuff together. It's like not Snow White, Cinderella, where all the animals come in and help with the work.
I would love that.
I don't think that's what. Go on.
I think if you said to most people, draw the opposite of a Disney princess, they'd draw you.
Yeah.
Which sounds more insulting than I meant it.
No, I agree. They'd draw some sort of troll and it would resemble me. I think that's fair. I think that is...
No, I never said that. I never said that.
So, I guess... my point with Opal was I didn't like... I felt like she was holding it against Bolin in a way that wasn't very, like... I just didn't think it was very fair, but, like, that's okay. She's allowed to be mad and frustrated. Her family is like... The one that got me more, the one that I was like, oh, ick, red flags, maybe Bolin needs to get out of this before it gets any more toxic, was the manipulation of him to come along with her at the end. You want to show me you love me? Come on a death mission. I'm not sure that's acceptable. That she would, like, hold her affection off until he does something for her? You want to prove you love me? Come do this thing?
I don't know, man. Isn't that
wrong? It felt
Isn't that how Nadia got you to bury the body and feed it to the birds?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I thought it was toxic then, and I think it's toxic now. I'm going to read you the dialogue, and you tell me whether you feel this is acceptable for a person who's supposed to love another person to sort of manipulate them this way. Bolin says to Opal, "Where are you going?" She's like, "We've got some family business to take care of." He gives a big speech. He's like, "I want you to understand I understand how you feel. There's nothing I could do or no big gesture that could make up for my mistakes, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop trying because I love you, right?" And she's like, "Thanks for saying that. There is one thing you could do to win me back." "What is it?" "Yes, I'll do anything. Come on a secret mission with us." "Where to?" "Zaofu. We're going to rescue my family." It's the ultimatum. There is one thing you could do to win me back that gives me like absolute like, get out of this one, Bolin, get out of this one. red flags, just like turn around, leave. That's bad. That's horrible. I found that real ick, and I could be, maybe I'm just reading into it too much, and we'll get comments that tell me I'm wrong about this, but like I feel that felt wrong to me. Felt all sorts of wrong.
Yeah, I did sort of feel like for Bolin though, it's about more than putting their relationship right. It's about, I think he's kind of got unfinished business in the Earth Kingdom as well. Doesn't change necessarily the point you're making, but
yeah, exactly. I don't disagree with that, and I think that's a reason why he would do it. Then, the solution to this is to have her say, "We'll figure out our stuff afterwards, but one thing we can do right now is try and put it right. And if you want to come with me, you can." Like give him the choice. Don't basically dangle your relationship as a carrot for him to chase. Like that's not cool, I don't think. I don't know. I felt really icky about it, and it makes me feel differently about their relationship because I'm just a bit like, I don't even know if I want Bolin to end up with Opal now, because I'm a bit like, I don't know, dude, get out of that one. That seems super toxic. That seems really unhealthy as a relationship.
If you could use their name Bopal, I'd appreciate it.
Oh, sorry, Bopal. Yes, apologies.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
So yeah, I don't know. I mixed feelings on that. If I'm being honest,
yeah,
I loved the scene earlier in the episode though, where he got Pabu. He tricked her into coming by, telling her that he'd broken both his legs. So she comes thinking he's injured and like stranded, and he's just there with his picnic. I thought that was hilarious. I thought that scene was very charming and quite funny. So I was on board with that.
Are you excited by? Do you think they've done enough to justify Asami and Venipu's teaming up?
Yeah, I think so. And I think like a little bit justice for Asami, like the idea that we're going to use her smarts is like, yeah, give me that. Like, like let's have her be like a big part of the solution. I mean, she's sort of the soccer of the group in that she's not a bender. So like, she's always got a certain limited ability to help in the finales of these series. And with soccer, they got around it by having him be a tactician. He was capable with a sword and what have you, but like his biggest value was always his tactical know-how and his engineering stuff. So leaning into Asami's scientific know-how to potentially have her play a part in the resolution to the situation that's ongoing is genius. And like teaming her up with Varric just means more Varric being funny. The scene where they were teamed up and Varric was just yabbering on about saying allegedly in front of every time that someone pointed out the crimes he's committed, blowing up buildings he owned. I'm allowed to blow up my own stuff. All of that was so funny that I'm like, almost like I'm excited about Asami Varric for two reasons. One, I think it's going to be good for Asami to be useful, justice for Asami, and two, she seems to be a really good. She's Penny to his Sheldon in the sense that they seem to be quite funny and entertaining when you put them together, and it feels like the writers have figured that out and therefore have nudged it into being. Because you notice that after the first season or so of Big Bang Theory, once they realized there was a bit of a chemistry, not a romantic chemistry, but like a chemistry in the sense of the two characters always were very funny together, sort of a straight man comedic character vibe, that putting them together more often was a good idea. And then you found that they teamed those two characters up a lot more once the writers kind of figured that out and clearly enjoyed writing the two together. I feel like that's what we're going to get a little bit here with Asami and Varric. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited for her to have something to do. I'm excited for the comedy, and I'm excited to see what their solution is. What did you feel about sort of the previews of, we're now seeing the big Pacific Rim machines chopping shit up and causing some real shit in the spirit world.
So they were presumably in the swamp, Tough Swamp, pulling up the spirit lines.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm on board. I think it's a good idea. I think it's a cool visual. They look intimidating. They're clearly, very obvious visual. Robots destroying the natural world. It's not subtle, but it's very effective. Immediately sets them up as the bad guys just visually, without even having to say what it is they're actually doing and the damage they're causing. And also the amount of spirit vine they're chopping up. I'm like, wow, whatever weapon they're developing. It was a pretty small amount of spirit vine created that extraordinary explosion we saw a few episodes back. They're taking trucks of the stuff, it seems. So, yeah, what are they working on? They working on the Avatar equivalent of the A bomb? Like, what are we on here? Where are we?
I hope we go into the next episode and Korra's like trying to deal with that right away, because like obviously, we've discussed how well we think they did it, but they resolved the not being able to talk to Rava, etc. They resolved that this week, so it sort of feels like the story got resolved. But like the story starts by her discovering that and wanting to do something about it. So it's like let's hope they don't like have to remind her that that's an issue.
Yeah, like, that's interesting, isn't it? Because like I'd almost forgotten that like she didn't know that. Like, because obviously, like, I'm here, like, urgency, please. But actually, yeah, one of the reasons we've been able to, like, get away with sort of saying they're, pissing about in Republic City is because they don't, Opal's family are kidnapped, but not in immediate harm, as far as they're aware. They don't know about the super weapon. So I guess that's part of why, like, now it should be go, go, go. Because now they know they're developing a super weapon. And that's obviously, you don't develop a super weapon for no reason. You're not just doing it for funsies. Just want to see what happens. It's not one of those situations. They've got plans. Kuvira has proven herself very ambitious, I guess is the word. So like anyone who doesn't think she's about to like wreck shit is probably not paying attention. If I'm being honest. So yeah, I'm here for it. Give me Kuvira wrecking some shit, or trying to at least, and having Korra get in the way. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the setup is good. Like the next few episodes do seem promising. Like I am on board with the premise. But although I will say the next episode looks like, I mean, just from the title alone, seems like it's going to be focused a bit more on this this attempt to rescue Lin's sister Suyin, because it's called Operation Beifong, which is a good name for an episode.
Yeah, it feels very much like it's that then, doesn't it?
Yeah. I've got a couple of quick notes I should go through very quickly. I really like that the lame basement kid from the previous season that was an airbender has now got a job, and it's doing little shitty tours through the spirit vines and reading off his cue cards. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, that was very, very nicely done.
Yeah. I loved the idiot tourist. I'm going to poke it with a stick. Like, just amazing, accurate, love it. Humanity is a doomed species. This is why. I don't know. I thought that was great. Let's see. Oh, I liked the explanation that the vines were acting up because of the damage being done to the spirit vines in the swamp. Because it really does lean into Toph's whole thing of it's all connected. Even if it's miles and miles and miles away. Oh, yeah, I wrote this down. This is actually something Nadia mentioned when we were watching it. At one point, Opal accuses Jinora of having IBS. What? Jinora's like, I feel something going on in the spirit world or whatever. Opal's like, you sure you just didn't eat something bad for breakfast?
I'm here for that.
Such a weird dialogue exchange. I kind of loved it, but I thought that was very
especially
funny.
because like Opal's like I liked because it felt very realistic. Like Opal's whole vibe this episode of have people just forgotten that like my family have been captured? Like, is this not a priority for anyone? What's going on here? So to know that in the middle of that she's cracking bow jokes.
Yeah. Yeah. I really loved Prince Wu's plans to try and capture Kuvira. Incredible. Like we'll tell her she's won a trip to an island and then we'll capture her because the island is actually a prison or whatever. It was just nonsense, but it was delightful. Really enjoyed that. I wrote down, okay, so it's Fire Lord Isumi. I wrote down the name. I earlier on I was trying to remember the Fire Lord's name and I couldn't, and now it's in front of me. It was in my own notes for my benefit and I missed it. There you go. One thing we haven't. Oh no, actually, very quickly, really love that when Korra found the missing people in the spirit vines, the first thing she tried was that trick Unalaq taught her to calm the spirits. You know, he waves the water like round in spirals. I thought that was neat. It was like her showing that, you know, using a technique she'd used previously. One element of the story though we have not talked about, and again this isn't resolved. Korra feeling like everyone has sort of lost faith in her. So when she shows up to the meeting earlier in the episode, she's like, I can't believe I wasn't invited to this, but you invited Prince Wu. Like, I'm the Avatar. And again, it's her arrogance and her overestimation of her own place in this world, like, that led her to feel that way. It's almost an ego thing. Because again, Korra as a character grew up believing she was the most special, most important person. And it's only recently that idea has been changed. And I think we do it later in the episode as well, where Tenzin doesn't want her to go to Zahir and try and resolve the issue. He's like, we'll find another way. And she, you know, he was, he even suggests another way. He's like, we'll go to the southern water tribe. We'll use the portal to go into the spirit world that way rather than resolving your issue. And she's like, you don't believe in me? Like, and I get why she feels that way. So do a lot of stuff about like Korra feeling like she's being doubted by those around her. But then we don't resolve that, or we don't work that into the things she has to sort of get over by seeing Zahir. Like, it doesn't tie in to the character work we do with her this week, which is, like, or at least, sorry, let me rephrase that. It doesn't tie in to the solution to her getting her mojo back problem. And I just feel like if the whole thing was that she needed to figure it out internally and it's all about her, you know, working out her own personal issues, and we spend multiple scenes in the episode setting up that she feels a bit like no one really believes in her anymore, the fact that that didn't then tie into the resolution seemed like a wasted opportunity to me.
Yeah, but I do sort of feel like that's a series, that's a theme of the whole series, feeling like everyone else has given up, and you know, we've had those flashbacks early on, and so I don't think that's necessarily something they introduced in this episode. Therefore, I don't feel personally don't feel it's necessarily something they need to resolve in this episode either.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Because in my head I was tying that to her blocked mojo. So when she was at the end, she was like, I'm better. I feel a bit better now. I can speak to Rava again. I was like, we've put that behind us then. Is she just going to be like
no, honestly,
for the rest of the season?
No. They've like that's for me. Like, I'm never going to believe that that storyline is done, just because there's been so many instances.
Even when the series is finished, last episode is aired, you're like, she's still not figured it out.
Yeah, no, genuinely, like honestly, like, and I'm not being. Like I say, I'm aware that we also have complained it's felt too easy or quick or whatever, but I just feel like I'm never gonna feel. I feel like they're gonna keep redoing that beat. So yeah, I'm not ever gonna feel like it's Korra's good now. That's been resolved. Korra's, you know, whatever. And you know, to some degree, you know, all joking aside, an ending of. You know what? The situation's been resolved. We've defeated the bad guy, but I'm gonna talk to someone about this. You know what I mean? Like the notion of it ending with like, okay, cool, well, Korra's gonna do some therapy now. I think that'd be great. I think that'd be awesome.
The Steven Universe ending, essentially. Well, Steven Universe future ending. Yeah, agreed. I'd be good with that because again, I think it's so frustrating to watch it because her issues are so clear now. I think so. It's like you just kind of want her to realize it. And I don't mind her misunderstanding the source of her problems either, because I think that's also potentially interesting. Like, that's why I wasn't so fussed by the choice to have Zahir in this episode, because, again, that was her, exactly like with Toph, looking for a quick fix, right? Get the metal out of me. Once the poison's out, I'll be fine. Once I've confronted Zahir, I'll be fine. Looking everywhere but inside herself is a great idea, but it just doesn't feel like she's learning. Because we keep doing that beat again, I guess the frustration is she's not learning the lesson of the solution isn't going to be anywhere but inside herself. You know what I mean? Like it feels like, and I agree with you. It just feels like she's never going to learn that lesson and get over those humps that she needs to get over. And I think a lot of it does come down to ego. The more I think about Korra's character and her arc and stuff, I do think a lot of it is about her sussing out how she feels about herself in the world and her ego and stuff. Like, because again, she grew up. I've said this a million times this season because it's come up a lot. But she grew up being told she was the most important person, and that's gonna fuck with someone's head. It's exactly what. And take a drink, everyone. We're gonna do it. And I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna name the thing that shouldn't be named here. It's the Harry Potter thing, isn't it? It's the reason Dumbledore chooses to put Harry with the Dursleys, because he knows if he spends his youth in the magical world, he'll be revered, and his head will grow to the size of Hogwarts, So instead, he lets him be sort of normal world, live a humble life, and then his head can grow and his ego can grow when he gets to the magical world and he's told he's the most important child at the tender age of 11. Nothing you can do about that, but they protected him as much as they could. So yeah, Korra got it from like age 5 or whatever when she figured out she was the Avatar. So I think that's what it is all tied into. I think it is that. It's an ego crashing into reality. That's what this is, I guess, when you sum it up. But I don't know, really interesting. Yeah, I guess Zahir is tied into all that because he's the villain that made her realize she wasn't going to be all powerful and all successful forever. Because he technically, in a lot of ways, he won. He killed the Earth Queen. He caused all that chaos. He nearly killed Korra. He was so close to achieving his goals. He did so much damage. Yeah, and she's not taking much solace in the fact that ultimately she did defeat him, because she defeated him at a lot of cost. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I did like they gave Zahir a line in this episode about that, though, where he basically implied that she was looking in the wrong place and that he's not her problem. I thought that was clever. So we'll see. Maybe they bring it all together really well in the last few episodes, and I'm just spinning my wheels here. Who knows?
No, I enjoyed them bringing him back in general, and obviously I enjoyed the, just because you mentioned his name and I meant to say it earlier. Hands up, the prince wasn't necessarily parked.
He's been brought him out one episode. They parked him for an episode. I was very surprised. He's been present. He's been present multiple episodes now. Yeah, no, I was surprised by that also. Unless you've got any other, do you have any overall thoughts? I think, look, good episode. Some potential criticisms for the rest of the series, but they are asterisked right now as maybe I'll feel better about a lot of these concerns once we get to the end and we see how it actually plays out. But just based on this episode, I have some concerns. I think that's probably the fairest way I can phrase it. How about yourself? Any final thoughts on the episode before we move on to the Triv?
Yeah, I think good episode. Most of the issues are indicative of season-wide issues as opposed to the specific episode, which did a good job of balancing multiple plots and keeping me interested.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. So yeah, solid episode with some concerning overarching stuff that we're still debating and wondering how it's going to play out. It's time, Chris. Do you want me to do it this time to save you shouting with your neighbours at what I assume is 7:15 in the morning for you?
Yeah, go on.
Let's triv it up!
He's going to give you some trivia.
I'm gonna give you some trivia. I like that we both do our own version of that. I don't. Mine is inspired by yours, but it is very much my own. You know what I mean? And yours is again a little inspired by mine, but like you've put your own little spin on it. I like that. I like it when we switch it.
Yeah,
up.
for sure.
Although if we did it,
I enjoy that as well.
If we did it all the time, it would lose its luster. Though I'd get bored of saying Triv it up.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We need to. Yeah. We can't. I don't think we should swap permanently, but it's a fun little. I enjoy our own takes as well. I thought exactly the same thing.
And I do think as well, we have to do it the right way round on the final episode. For sure. Although final for now, Avatar isn't going anywhere. There's talk. There's Avatar Studios. They're making loads of animated stuff that's going to come out in the next few years. This podcast is going to go on a pretty long hiatus. I feel like once we've done the questions and answery episode that we're going to do 10 weeks after the final of this goes out. But like, there's more Avatar stuff coming. Don't worry about it, guys. This podcast won't go the way of our Steven University podcast, where there's no new content, so making new episodes feels hollow.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, like if they release new episodes of Steven Universe, we would also do those. So,
yes, although that doesn't appear to be on the horizon. But yeah, I would agree. If they did, yeah, of course. If they brought Steven Universe back, the minute they announced that, we're putting like within a few days, we're putting up a mini podcast discussing that news on the Steven University feed and reinvigorating that without a question. But yeah, this podcast is gonna go away for a little bit, but I think we've timed this really well in that this series will finish this year, and I think word on the street is next year there might be new Avatar stuff, animated Avatar stuff coming out. So whether it's these movies they've long rumored or a new series or whatever, we'll figure it out. But be very exciting to cover. So in the meantime, let's do the trivia. There's not much this week, so the way that Korra and Zahir face each other's spirits is similar to how Korra accessed her own Avatar memories in Beginnings Part 1. I'll be honest, I did not notice that, but it just seems to be a little visual reference, so there you go. No explanation for this, but during the recap, the scene where Korra and Asami hug had slightly different animation from the same scene as it was presented in Reunion. Weird. Just like it's not different in any significant way. It's just like a slightly different variation of the movement. No idea why. Maybe it's someone used animation they stuck in the previously on. Not sure. I did try to Google because I'm a journalism. I'll do a journalism every now and then. I did a bit of Googling, as all good journalists do. Couldn't find the answer, so gave up, like all good journalists do. So the tourist in this episode, the one that's like, I'm going to poke it with a stick, was actually voiced by John Michael Higgins, who is the voice of Varric. They jokingly named this tourist Steve. His design is actually a character that was often spotted as a background extra across Korra. He was in background scenes going back as far as book 1, but he'd never had lines. And there'd been a few fans who had questioned who this character was because of how consistently he'd appeared, so they decided to give him some lines here. They talked about it in the Blu-ray commentary. They nicknamed him Steve. I think that's fun.
Yeah, I agree.
And I do like as well that sort of implies a certain amount of being aware of the community if they're doing stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, that's the advantage of it being Series 4, isn't it? They've had time to, get feedback, incorporate it, etc.
Agreed. The entrance gate to the Spirit Wilds in Republic City resembles the Tori found in Japanese Shinto shrines. They symbolize the boundary between the mundane and the sacred. I'm gonna say this is one I did notice. I thought that when I saw it because I didn't think it's. I didn't know the name, a Tori found in Japanese Shinto shrines, and it's the boundary between the mundane and the sacred. But I did think, they've got those in Japan. I walked through some of those to get to different, shrines. So I should have known. Shrines in various other sites, like usually cool buildings and stuff. So yeah. Just thought that was interesting, like temples and stuff that you get to through those sorts of sort of like an archway, like a freestanding archway type thing. They're really cool, and I think that's nice that they incorporated those into the design. So shall we do? We'll do a quick because this one's gone a little bit longer than I was anticipating. So let's do a quick feedback from last series. You want to hear a little intro song, Chris?
Oh shit, yeah. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba. We got some feedback. We got some feedback from last series we didn't get a chance to respond to at the time. We got some feedback. We got some feedback.
Hi, I'm Dan, and welcome to feedback from last series. As was just delightfully explained by our increasingly unhinged intro song. This is feedback that we received as the last set of episodes went out. We couldn't respond to them in that series because we recorded them ahead of time. So I'll do two quick ones. Actually, no, I'm gonna do three quick ones actually because this is good. So the first two here are both different comments from Alchemic Wolf. Alchemic Wolf says, "It's me. I'm listening to you guys talk about the Oscar animated film win throughout the years, and I'll be honest, I could have listened to you guys go on for even longer. I really enjoy you guys. Thank you, Alchemic Wolf. That's very nice of you. I remember that addition to one of the episodes where we just randomly listed, or just Chris just like read out winners of or years. He read out the nominations for each year, and I had to try and guess who won for every animated Oscar they've ever done. Every animated feature Oscar, they've ever done.
That really sounds like something we would do on Nothing But Static, like at the end, not on Korra.
I thought that, but the comment was on a Korra episode, so I can only assume that's where it was from. But yeah, you're right. Yeah. But also, Alchemic Wolf on a separate episode says, "I've been a Pokemon fan since it first came out in my 30s now, and I promise you, I'd never put together that Ketchum was a pun on Gotta Catch 'Em All." Yeah, welcome to the Chris. Chris also discovered that on this podcast. So
I was going to say, I don't believe I realised that either. I think, yeah.
No, that was what we talked about. Was that it was like that was a revelation for you also. And then finally, the one that's actually like what I think obviously it's just nice to read out those comments because it's just thank you for putting them. I don't have too much to add to those comments other than that we're very much grateful for you sending them. The one that I thought we'd have a little response to, and I think this is an interesting one. This is from people who didn't answer, the Ponderer, who has been a long time sort of supporter of the stuff we've done, but also Ponderer themselves is a YouTuber and does some really good stuff. The Ponderer is one of those great like yardsticks for me where like I do like the Ponderer and I personally I don't want to speak for Chris here, often have different opinions on stuff, particularly when it comes to Doctor Who, and it's always really nice to make sure that I'm taking in the opinions of people who sometimes see media differently to I do, so I'm sort of challenging my own thought patterns and sort of almost checking my own sort of biases and like making sure that I'm like it's just nice to have someone who's like in a friendly way gonna go, I don't agree. So the Ponderer always is someone we enjoy hearing from. So we'd obviously speculated on how Mako feels different in season 3, like less. We couldn't put a finger on it. That's what we were sort of having the conversation was. He just seemed lighter, like less so self-serious, and we were enjoying that about him because obviously season 3 started with him being awkward around Korra and Asami. Having them be his exes, and they were kind of like teasing him about it, and we talked a lot about it then. So this is a comment from the Ponderer, who you go check out their YouTube channel, by the way, listeners. They've done videos covering Korra. I haven't seen them all yet. I think I've seen the first video, which covers seasons 1 and 2, and I don't think I've seen the video covering 3 and 4 yet, because I was waiting until we covered 3 to watch that section, and I just decided I just watched it all once I'm through 4. But yeah, they do really good stuff. They say I think I've said it before, Ponderer, sayer of interesting things. Check them out on various social medias and YouTube. But yeah, they added, if I had to pin the warmer feeling to Mako's interactions on anything, I'd say that he feels less broody and more grouchy. It's a thin line, but one is kind of a wet blanket where the other makes for a fun half of a double act. I think that's right.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's that difference between somebody being grumpy to the point that they don't seem like they're very fun, or someone being sort of like Jim from The Office giving the camera like a look like, I can't believe I'm dealing with this shit. One is amusing. One is an amusing sort of straight man who's grounding the silliness around them. The other is is someone that you just go, God, I wouldn't want to go for a beer with them. Like that person seems like an absolute nightmare to hang around with. They seem so miserable. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I agree, the Ponderer. I think you're exactly right. So there you go. I don't have anything else to add to that, but it's nice to get back to the comments. If you, the listener, would like to leave us a comment, you are welcome to do so. Also, comments best or easiest left on the YouTube channel where we post these podcasts as podcasts. They don't have visual elements, but you can comment underneath each one relevant to it. So if you've got something you wanted to say in relation to what we said this week, something you thought, Dan, you're completely wrong, head over to the YouTube channel, find this very episode, Beyond the Wilds, and get in the comment section and let us know. You can also get in touch with us at mail@nothingbutstatic.co.uk. Other ways to support the podcast if you're interested, of course, patreon.com/nothingbutstatic allows you to give us a little bit of cash to cover our server bills and stuff, which isn't much, but we don't have a huge Patreon. We've not got thousands and thousands of pounds/dollars coming in. It's a very small amount of support, but it's just enough to keep us from going going into we're not spending on this doing the podcast. It's just our time. It doesn't cost us anything to do these anymore because of the Patreon. So if you'd like to support us in that way, patreon.com/nothingbutstatic. For as little as $1 a month, you get access. Any tier gives you access to everything. The episodes of this podcast go up a week early, as do Rewind Reviews, and we will at some point get back to our bonus podcast, Nothing But Lyrics, but right now there are still 8 or 9 episodes of that available on the Patreon, so if you've never heard one of those, put that $1 in, get access, download them all, cancel, and then you've got them. Feel free. I'm not. No one's judging you. I don't care. To
be honest with you,
any amount of support.
What we've said before is just message us and we'll send you them if you want.
Yeah, I mean, there's an element of that. If anyone out there actually can't afford, just let me know. Just send me an email. We'll hook you up. It's fine. I'm not. Do you know what I mean? If you're listening, if you're an hour and 10 minutes, 12 minutes, or whatever this is, into this podcast, you're pretty committed. Just send me.
Yeah, and if it's
we'll suss it out.
And look, it's a shitty, difficult time at the moment for people in terms of finances. So if it's look, I just can't afford it, then yeah, just message. It's fine.
100%, and we'll just hook you up. We'll sort it out. It is what it is. But thank you everyone for listening. Oh, also that gives you access. The Patreon gives you access to the Discord as well, where you can also message us. Also, the Patreon has also a comment section under each podcast posted, so you can leave feedback there as well. I don't check those as often, but I do check them for feedback for this podcast. And I will say that with this, if you're wondering, well, wait a minute, if you always do the previous season's feedback on the next season, how are you doing this season's feedback? So the 10-ish weeks after this has gone out, we're going to do a special feedback episode where we read back the feedback from the 4th series. And that'll be fun, because I'm sure there'll be plenty of thoughts from this series from people. And we're always excited to go through those. So yeah, please add your comments or send them to us. Email. And I didn't actually say the email address. mail@nothingbutstatic.co.uk. So if you do want to get in touch for any reason, please do it that way. Obviously, go support Raphodraws, who supplies that brilliant artwork of Appa at Sunset that we use as our key art for this podcast. Instagram.com/Raphodraws. It's spelled RAPHODRAWS. They also have a Tumblr and a Twitter and a YouTube. Do a bit of Googling, you'll find them. Very worth supporting. And I think that's all the biz. Have I done all the biz? I don't think there's any more biz.
I think you've done all the biz, my friends.
We're bizless. All right, cool. Well, thanks everyone for listening. We're big fans of you, specifically you, the person listening to this right now. That person right now sat on a bus. Yeah, I can see you. Don't act like I can't. Yeah, you can look around. Yeah, you're not going to see me, though. I can see you. You can't see me. How freaked out do you think the person sat on a bus randomly that's listening to this just got?
Yeah, that went from, a very sincere "we love you" to creepy really quickly.
Yeah, that's all right. I see you in the striped shirt. Yeah, I see you too. And the dude on the bus. I'm seeing both of you at the same time. You're not even in the same place. How does that work? It's magic. The magic of podcasting. I'm like Santa Claus. I see you when you're sleeping. I know when you're awake.
I know
when you've been bad or good.
Dan, I know earlier you were debating it and you raised the question, but I can assure you it's me who's too tired for this. So,
all right, everyone. Thanks very much for listening. I'm going to end the podcast there to save both me and Chris from more of this. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And we'll see you in a week's time when we sit down to review Operation Beifong.